Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. And welcome back, everybody. I asked this question, what is love? What is love? People define it many different ways. If it's a new relationship, you might think you're feeling something that feels like love, but is it really love? You've been in a long-term relationship. Is there love there? You might think there is. There probably is. What level? We're going to talk about the evolution of love today with an intimacy coach. Going to learn a lot. Going to be, we're going on a sort of like a fact-finding mission, and you're going to love it. I love her. She's great. She is Elaine Miles, and she's back with us. How you doing today?
Hi, Steve. I'm fine. How are you?
Very well. Very well. Hard to define that question, what is love, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We're used to, the Hollywood script, more or less, in relationships, informing them. And they tend to be, we tend to go too quickly. We tend to jump into things based on what we've kind of been conditioned, their appearance, and values are not emphasized, I don't think, enough. And in doing so, I think a part of us stays hidden. We don't, we're not taught how to truly be vulnerable with someone, so that while we're in the relationship, we feel like we're really becoming a better person. And both of us are becoming better people. And only when there are certain ingredients, which Andrew Harvey is a modern mystic, and he calls these evolutionary love relationships. And he has 6 ingredients that are necessary to not only love one another, but then to share that love with the world. Because you're getting so much, you're giving and receiving so much between the two of you, that then you can be an activism. It's a form of, sharing love with the world is activism. You're engaging in the world, and you're able to show up with more love. So in that regard, it's activism.
I love that concept. When you're in a great place, you feel that you're supported in a loving relationship, and vice versa, that you just want to share it with the world. Not like rub it in anybody's face, but just like that feeling of, we're good. We hope you are good too. How can we support?
Yeah.
Those 6 things that you said, do you know on the top of your head? Because I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I have them right here in front of me. So we did mention one of them, and that is spreading love to others. But before that, an important component is that we each have a way that we connect with that's part of us that can feel joy and connect it to, whether it's we call it a creator, a force, a field. But there's this force field of love, and that we each have our own way that we can go there, and we can fill our own selves up with this love. And so that's one of the things, that we each have that in place. And then one of the other parts is that we enjoy sharing our practices. Perhaps we each have our own practice that gets us to that place. Maybe we use the app that you mentioned, How We Feel, and that helps us to get to that deeper sense of ourselves. But we each have something that we use to get to that place, and then we commune. We do something together, and we go there together. And so that's another aspect of it. It's also really important that we're each comfortable with solitude. So how do you enjoy solitude?
Great question. I was never comfortable with it. I was never comfortable with it until the last, year or so. Now, and full disclosure, I'm always busy. I'm always doing things. I create that. I have fun doing things with other people, whatever it might be. And I got to a point where it's like, I just want to be alone. This is too much. Like, I just want to be sit on the couch, dog, 2 cats. I'll put the TV on. I never watch TV. It'll be on in the background. Maybe I'll try to watch a little something. I don't know. It's just not my thing. Maybe I'll be on my phone. Maybe I'll just close my eyes and meditate. There's something to it. And when you look forward to it, it's even more magical. Like, I'm going home tonight. I'm going to cook me a really good steak and I'm just going to chill. And instead of looking at it as like, I'm alone. No, you're not. You have the most wonderful person in the planet with you, and that's yourself. And if you don't feel that way, you got to work on that.
Well, yeah, that's really wonderful that you recognize that you've become your own best friend, and that being with yourself is pleasant, and it's not going to cause any kind of distress that you feel it's not right. No, it's very right to be able to, even taking walks are a form of solitude.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think, I do see people doing that.
And you look forward to it. Like yesterday. So here it is. I'm in the Northeast. In the morning, it was warmer than usual. I was like, oh, it's really nice. I'm going to take my dog and walk into town. I never do it. I got to get him out more. I got to get me out more like that. And just walking him, maybe grab a beer and sit there and just look at, there's a harbor. And I took a nap because it was New Year's Eve. So I was kind of tired from the day before. And I woke up and now it was cloudy and cold. I'm like, damn, I should have went. But what did I do? I found other stuff to do that needed to get done. So I had a feeling of positivity and accomplishment. So holiday decoration sound, did this, did that. It was all good. But if you're at a point where you don't value yourself in those moments, then you need to do some soul searching. And it's one of the cheesiest things I think you'll ever hear, but it's one of the most true things you'll ever hear, is that you need to love yourself. You need to love yourself.
Yeah. And that gets into one of the other thing, which is safeguarding each other's shadow. And so we have wounds, we all have wounds. And so these wounds can become apparent to us through our moods, through our fantasies. Are we fantasizing about killing somebody often? Our dreams, negative thought patterns. And to be able to be vulnerable and to share these wounds with each other and say, this is where I'm, this is important that I focus on this. And then the other person can be supportive of that and say, and you can go to them and not as you're dumping it on them and say, oh, I'm in a terrible mood and it's because of I'm thinking about what happened as a child. They can't be your therapist, but they can empathize and say, just let's sit together and, and let's take a walk and just being present. So if you're dreaming about killing someone, there's some aggression that's repressed or you're thinking about it. Well, a lot of us have repressed a lot of aggression so that we can function in society. But aggression can be helpful when, you begin to assert yourself. Then that is a healthy form. It's of assertiveness, but it is defending your turf, So, and without repressing that and having it turn into something like worse, So we support each other's shadow. And there's a lot on the internet now about shadow work. So that's really good that we can become more aware of what it really means to take a look at our shadows. We're all human and we all have parts of ourselves that, whether it's from like a childhood traumatic experience or whether it's something that happened last week.
Now, when you say shadow, and we hear that term a lot, you have to do shadow work. How do you define it?
So I was listening to some different things yesterday on YouTube and how they were defining it. And I would say they're wounds that need healing. And I've had so many wounds that I've worked on healing on my own. And I have it, and sometimes in a relationship, sure, I'll share what I'm working on, but without the other person really being aware of their wounds, and I feel like it's one-sided. And I happen to know that the person I was in a relationship with that ended in 2018 had some really deep wounds, and he would drink to cover them up. And he, I was really open to him sharing what are these feelings? How bad are they? Let's and then we can, I've told you some of mine. He couldn't go there though, so I think so in an evolutionary relationship, that is a component. We can go there with each other without feeling less of a man. If it's like, no, we can be hurting.
I would say even in a new relationship or fairly new, take all the facts that you're given and process them and what that person the challenges they may have. Where am I going with that? So, and this is based on experience. Mm-hmm. Let's say you're in a relationship or a new one with somebody, and let's say their father abandoned them, mm-hmm. Early or when they were very young. Or let's say they had problems with their mom. Take that with a grain of salt and take the clues that they give you, because they're basically telling you, this is what I am, this is what I'm dealing with. Because later in life, you're going to realize things when you put the pieces together, why somebody acts like you just gave that example of somebody that had things from their past and they gravitate toward a bottle. Others gravitate mm-hmm. toward other things. They might gravitate toward, I don't know, intimacy with others, i.e. cheating, mm-hmm. because certain things weren't satisfied in their life, and they're always searching to get them fulfilled in some regard or to feel better. But I believe everybody tells you who they are in the beginning.
Yeah, and it's good not to tell too much in the beginning.
No, I'm not even saying outwardly saying, so here's what happened when I was younger. No, I'm talking about little things that are hinted.
People put small tidbits on the table, and then down the road you want to certainly find out more about those things.
Sure.
And as we talked earlier, I think a lot of us are we're trying to go slower because we realize there's a lot to unpack when you meet a new person, and each encounter is just like a baby step towards getting to know them. So there's a lot of it requires a lot of encounters, just meeting for coffee, for light meals, walks, to develop anything before you head into anything more. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think we're all those of us in the dating world are trying to be mindful of pacing, but and it is a struggle. Yeah. It is something to keep in the forefront of our minds.
Do you find that people in new relationships want to move too fast?
Well,
I'm not inferring any one thing.
Yeah.
Intimacy, whatever it might be. Just anything, just moving too fast without getting to know each other better.
Well, let's not use the word intimacy, because if you're having sex real quickly, it's not intimacy. It's just a physical, mm-hmm. So it's not intimacy. You don't know anything about each other, really. So what was your question?
That people just want to move too fast.
Oh, yeah, I think it's part of the culture. Like we've been programmed with all these movies and things, and they're, certainly they have to get a story in 90 minutes, and it has to move fast. but it's not real life. Real life is like so different than that. And but that's our kind of our reference point, and that's what I think we struggle to go slower. Yeah, I think that has an influence on us, like the superficial ways to get into relationships, but they're actually not real. And we can find ourselves getting into them. And then a year or 2, 5 down the road, we're like, gosh, this is a completely different person. And it's
right.
because I rushed, because we both rushed. Yeah.
You said something that really clicked in my mind. I didn't really think of it until you said it, but we live, I call it the Amazon world. It's, I click a button, it shows up at 3 p.m. today in most areas. So that being said, and we've been that way for years, fast food, drive through, like I'll pull up to Starbucks. I'm like, there's a line of cars, but I don't want to get out. I'm just going to sit in the line. I'll go around, whatever. I think that we want things sooner. So we move it sooner without taking the steps. I'm talking about a new relationship now, without taking the steps to get to know somebody, really connect with them. But then a lot of times, and I'm sure you can attest to this in the dating world, let's say on apps or whatever, sometimes you get caught in the text loop. All you're doing is like messaging each other, like, all right, where are we going with that?
Right. Yeah. And I've worked with a dating coach myself, and she has said to me, one and done. One text a day, get off the site, you check back tomorrow. You do not make it a texting thing. And that has been very helpful. And so one and done. If you can keep that in your mind, if you're using dating apps, you want to have a rapport, and then eventually you want to have a phone call. And then you want to make, if the phone call goes well, then, and it does not, we're not talking a lengthy overnight phone call. We're talking about half hour, 45 minutes. And then then the next have a coffee. And then, just because you have each other's phone number, you don't want to get into a texting thing there either, So it's strictly to set up the next date. And thank one another for the experience, So, right. So, even there, we have to draw the boundaries. It's all about boundaries, ultimately. It's all about personal boundaries and not overstepping our own and not overstepping others, and recognizes when ours are being somewhat cringed upon. And so, so why do we want to, let's look at the bottom line though. What is it we're hoping to remedy so quickly? Well, I think what we're looking to remedy is someone to fill something in us. And a lot of the love songs are all sung around, needing and filling and the completing me. And that's also the programming. So if we learn, as we were saying at the beginning, to cultivate this way to find joy ourselves, I think it will serve us in setting firmer boundaries.
And that was from that movie, trying to remember, Jerry Maguire maybe, where, Tom Cruise says, you complete me. And it's probably
it's in all the songs. It's in a lot of the movies. And really, it's so unhealthy.
It's so wrong. Like, it should not
unhealthy.
It shouldn't be that C word, complete. That should be switched to another C word. It's not you complete me. It should be you complement me. You make my life better. There's not something missing. If you feel there's something missing, go back to square one, because you got to figure things out about yourself.
Yeah. Right. I mean, relationships can fill certain needs, and but ultimately, we want to share love when we're with someone, and as we don't expect them to fill an aspect that it's really our responsibility to fill on our own.
Yep.
And then we come together and we're both fully, loving human beings. And then we create something even better. And then it overflows into the world. That's the evolution of relationships. As, like I said, Andrew Harvey, a modern mystic, as he has explained it in his book, Evolutionary Love Relationships. If anyone wants to look further into this. I also have, on my blog, it is mentioned there. So there's, and as a matter of fact, on my blog, on my website, there's a lot of things that foster making those connections within yourself. There's a lot of my blog posts that do foster helping you to get that process started if you haven't already.
Isn't it amazing, Elaine, once you get to that point where you kind of figured you out, and we're in evolution. It's not like I'm fixed, everything's great. No, it takes time. And you discover more things along the way. But when you get to that point where, to a greater degree, you've figured out yourself, where you came from, how that influenced you today, and isn't it a great feeling?
I look at it as a scaffolding that I'm a building, and I have to make sure the scaffolding is firm. And I do that by looking at every aspect of hurt and every aspect of loss. And I really go into those areas and I feel them and I cry and I mourn them. And then I celebrate coming out the other side. And I'm contributing to a scaffolding. And now I feel like I've done that in every area I can think of that has hurt, that has been a wound. And now when something disappoints me, I know the scaffolding is there. I know I'm not going to go into a pit of despair. And that's a wonderful feeling when you've done enough work where you feel like, okay, I can take the punches that might come, but it's not going to knock me into that dark place that I've already been to many times, and I've done the work to really work on it. Yeah. Yep. So it's like so to me, like I said, it's like making a building the foundation, then the scaffolding is next, and then the furniture you bring in and the curtains you hang and all the decor. Well, that's all that's when you get to do that to your home and to yourself, because you give yourself all these lovely things and experiences when you are a whole person and you can enjoy them, whether or not you're with somebody or not.
Love it. And this is just part of what you help people realize as you coach them along on the intimacy level and then some. Soul Tymes is your website, SOULTYMES.com, right? Yes. Soultimes.com?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Great conversation today. It really was.
Yeah, it's a way to start the new year.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter whether you're single, you're in a relationship, you still got to go back to the scaffolding and figure out who you are if you really want the best life for yourself.
Exactly. You do. You really do.
Elaine, thank you very much for being here today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Happy New Year, by the way.
Yeah, you too.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk soon. We'll be right back.
Suffering from ED, living in a sexless marriage, reeling from religious dogma and sexual shame. None of these are pleasant. There are ways to move beyond such concerns. Hi, my name is Elaine Miles, and I'm an intimacy coach. We can meet virtually with the ease of knowing that privacy is ensured. Visit my website, soultimes.com, or call 267-934-4849. Begin to ease your burden today.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
It's Thursday night, and you're grabbing drinks with some friends. Started off with a pitcher for the table, which quickly becomes two. There's pool. And there's the photo booth.
All right, everybody squeeze in. Say cheese!
Followed naturally by an order of wings. And another.
Can we get some extra ranch sauce?
Then there's the ceremonial nightcap.
So what are we doing this weekend?
And lastly, it's back to the car, which, if you're buzzed, could be the most expensive night of your life. Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.